Welcome to the wilderness of creativity, a space where artists, dreamers, and makers share the messy, beautiful truth behind the creative process. With 13,000 views on YouTube and almost 50 episodes, it's come a long way. I'm your host, Lucy, and I consider myself a story catcher, someone who creates space for vulnerability and honesty. And this podcast is different. It's not about polished success stories. It's about those real conversations, creative courage, and the wild paths that we take to make something meaningful. If you're craving depth, inspiration, and a reminder that you're not alone in your creative journey, then you're in the right place. Subscribe now on your favourite platform and step into the wilderness with us. Thanks for listening. Stay wild. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Wilderness of Creativity, a platform for creatives and aspiring entrepreneurs to share their stories of survival. I'm your host, Lucy, and today I'm talking to Tricia Duffy, a versatile and accomplished professional with a diverse career spanning multiple disciplines. She is a media consultant, podcaster, public speaker, songwriter, and singer, and her journey began as an entertainer aboard cruise ships across the United States. After several years at sea, she transitioned into the TV industry, working with organisations such as IMG, Sky, the BBC, and eventually founded her own strategy consultancy firm, Lily Gray, in 2012. In 2017, Tricia expanded her creative pursuits into music. Alongside her work as Little Law, Tricia collaborates with other artists and writes for TV and film. Her podcast, In 10 Years' Time, was born from Tricia's desire to reflect the duality of her consulting and artistic identities, blending her passions into a cohesive, creative expression. Right, let's get to the episode. I've known you forever.
I know.
It really does.
I know. I think exactly the same thing. I was just thinking like the way that we just chat and text each other and leave each other voice notes and all that kind of thing. It's like, yeah, I mean, I can't remember a time I didn't know you in a way. Also because I hear your voice so often because I listen to your podcast.
I know, and I'm listening to yours as well. The whole thing of like the research that you're doing. I mean, I'm so impressed with the amount of time and research that you're giving your podcast. I mean, it's really genuinely inspiring. I mean, like, how important is the research for you?
Oh, it's critical. I didn't sort of set out thinking, you know, the research is going to be the most important part of the podcast when I first had the idea. But actually, as soon as I started with that first series and really started to kind of backing my idea, do you know what I mean? Like getting behind my own philosophy, I realised that I needed to do it in a way that was, just backed up, that I wasn't just like, spouting stuff out of my backside or whatever. Then I was actually kind of, doing it with some sort of sense of grounding within what's been researched and done before. And now I think I genuinely love the research as well. I've really got I've got like a slight addiction to doing research now. So I think that it kind of nourishes a part of me that's just really interested in finding things out and allowing myself to go down those rabbit warrens of, you look into one thing and then you have your head turned and you find something else and you find something else and find something else. And also the creativity that comes with trying to apply an idea in a different way. So, you're looking at one thing and then you think, I wonder whether I could use research associated with something that's sort of tangential or completely different to make my point. It's really interesting.
It's really interesting. And when the idea to do the podcast came, did you always want to do series?
It's been quite a long time. I don't know how long it took you to come up with yours, but basically it was about 3 years ago that I came up initially with the idea for In 10 Years' Time in the podcast, because I'd written an article which went on LinkedIn called In 10 Years' Time and talked about how I'd learned through my client work as a management consultant that the organizations that had the best success and were best able to kind of pivot and react in times of great change in the industry, or when things were going wrong in their organization or what have you, were those that had the longer term plan. And I was like, what is going on there? Because it's counterintuitive, right? They've got a long term plan and yet they're more reactive in the moment. So what's happening there? And their staff are happier. They're usually more successful. They're more aligned. They can cope and flex. So I just started to experiment on myself to see what would happen if I did my own 10-year plan and how that would help me day to day. And I wrote an article about that, and about my creativity, about my songwriting for kind of my day job sort of, peers, I suppose you could say. And then loads of people got in touch with me, like DMing me on LinkedIn going, oh my God, I love your article. Also love the fact that you have this /career, this sort of multi-hyphen type idea. And so that sort of gave me a bit of confidence about it. And so I did record 2 episodes of this podcast, or the podcast as it became, called In 10 Years Time, How to Live a Creative Life. And I sent it to a couple of people, and then I completely lost confidence in it. I don't know. I just thought, oh no, I'm not sure that in 10 years time is clear enough. Maybe what I really want to talk about is creativity, and using the in 10 years time is not quite the vehicle for it. So I lost a bit of confidence. So then a year went by and I decided, no, it's a book. I'm going to write a book. So I did one of these schemes where you do, in 6 weeks, you can finish your book. I didn't finish my book in 6 weeks, but it does give you the process for working out what all the chapters are and kind of what all the topics are that you would discuss. And when I'd finished that exercise and written about 4 chapters of the book, I went, oh, hang on a minute. It's not a book. It is a podcast. And here's all of the different topics that I might be able to research. And so then I got back in love with the idea of the podcast, and that's really how it came about. And it was really my producer. I have a producer, an amazing woman called Rachel Balmer, who she said to me, she suggested I stick with the series idea because she knows, like that a podcast is a very hungry mouth to feed. And she just said, if you really are serious about living this creative life that you talk about, if you start podcasting every single week, you will not have the time to be a songwriter. So to protect you, why don't you try this series idea? And so that's how it came about. That's a long answer.
No. I'm a podcaster. I am not succinct. That's kind of what I saw the other day from Anna Xavier. I don't know if you listen to the podcast space. It's a really great podcast.
So, I mean, my career has been quite kind of varied. I left home when I was 19 to go and work on cruise ships. First of all in the gift shop, and then I went into the entertainment department, and I was a hostess and called bingo and saw tours off in the mornings and sang songs in the evenings. And then when I came back from working on cruise ships, I thought my most logical career would be to try and work in television, not knowing, which I now know, but at the time, that somebody like me who'd come from Portsmouth and left school when I was 16 with no qualifications and no prospects, was not the sort of person that got a job in TV. People that got jobs in TV went to red brick universities, whatever that was. And just by the luck of luck, I had a friend who'd been at school with me, who'd gone on to art college, and he was a graphic designer, and he was working on a television show called ESPN Sports Center International Edition as a graphics guy. And he said to me, why don't you just come in and like shadow me? At least then if you're trying to go for interviews for jobs in TV, you would at least have a clue what you're talking about, what edit suite looks like and all that kind of thing. And I went in, and luckily for me, the day that I went in, the work experience person that was booked in for the following week wasn't coming, had not shown up. And so I got work experience from the following Monday. And on the Thursday, they said to me, our edit assistant's been off sick with glandular fever for the last 6 weeks. Do you want to work Saturday? And so that's how I got my first job in TV.
Oh my gosh, what a story.
I can't tell you how unusual that was though then, because TV has become a lot better at socioeconomic diversity and kind of, bringing people from various different sort of backgrounds and educations. But at the time it was a pretty, closed shop. Anyway, I worked in TV and worked through the ranks and ended up working for, I worked for a company called IMG, and then I went to work for Sky as the head of production for all of the entertainment channels. In those days, they were called Sky 1, 2 and 3. So that shows how long ago that was. And then I went back to work for IMG for a while, and then I went to the BBC. And then at the end of my time at the BBC, I decided that I wanted to leave and set up my own business. And so I've been running, and I still run, a consulting business called Lily Gray for the last 12 years. And that's been an amazing kind of thing to do, because I've kind of honed my skills as a consultant and invested my time in understanding strategy and change management in this sector. But it's also offered me flexibility so that I could pursue a creative side of myself. But what happened kind of a couple of 3 years ago was that I had a bit of an epiphany, really associated with turning 50, I think, which was I wanted to change the ratio of how much time I spent in creativity and how much time I spent in my day job. And that really spurred me on to kind of try using these practices really just as a form of changing my own life. But little did I know that it would turn into a philosophy and something that I became passionate about telling other people about.
Wow. And the in 10 years' time philosophy. So do you want to just kind of lay that out?
The philosophy is that if you have a 10-year plan, then you can allow yourself time to really think about what is important to you. And by doing that, by giving yourself the space to think about what you'd like your life to look like in 10 years' time, it enables you to make decisions day to day that align with that future. So it's like setting a North Star or agreeing kind of what you think your future might look like. And then you put it aside, and every day you do one tiny thing towards it, just one tiny thing. It could be for a minute. And the reason why I think that is so powerful and important is because, and I think that this could apply differently to different genders potentially, is that we don't spend enough time thinking what we want. We do what other people say we should want, because society is very, very powerful at keeping us in lanes and telling us what we should and shouldn't want to do. I mean, when I was 16 and left school, I wanted to be a singer more than anything. And I wrote poetry as a hobby. So it doesn't take a kind of brain surgeon to work out why I now enjoy songwriting so much. But, for good reason, the people around me said, you need to think about how you're going to put a roof over your head and food on the table, because their lived experience had not been without risk and insecurity, particularly financial insecurity, because my dad was a wartime baby, my mum was a post-war baby. Their lived experience was obviously informed by their own circumstances, quite rightly. But I sort of allowed those dreams to, after a time working on cruise ships, which kind of felt like, while you're young, you can do that. And then once it's out of your system, you better find something a bit more sensible to do. Managed to get a job in television, which obviously was vastly exciting. But in TV, girls did admin jobs and business jobs, and men did editorial jobs. So to do anything creative in my work in the television industry would have been extremely difficult for me to do, because we were channeled in two different paths. One side's pink and one side's blue, and never the twain shall meet. It was very, very, very unusual to find girls working on the editorial side of the business. They were really outstandingly, brave to be able to do that. And you didn't see men working as production managers or heads of production either. It was always a female's job. So, you've got huge societal divides there, and kind of pressure to fit in and good girl and do the things that you're supposed to do. And I really did tell myself a story for a good 20 years of that I'm not a creative person. I convinced myself and truly believed that I was better as a business person supporting usually a man to be creative. And it was only when I started to get older and sort of hit midlife that I became very, very dissatisfied with that. And I think that all of us can kind of reflect on that experience when something's just like in your ear and it will not shut up no matter what you do. And at some point, it just needs to be listened to. And so by adopting this 10 years time plan and spending the time to think about what life might be like in 10 years time, it allowed me the opportunity to think about what I really want. I hadn't really done that before. I'm still not 100% sure that I have identified everything that I really want, because when I update my 10-year plan, I do change it, which is also quite revealing and freeing. And some things stay the same, and that's really good, because I go, okay, so I'm definitely onto the right thing there. That's good. We tell ourselves a lot of stories that fit into a narrative. So it's about breaking out of that, really.
But you have completely embraced your songwriting, your love of songwriting and singing. You've just graduated, haven't you?
Yeah.
I saw the photographs, and just amazing achievement.
Yeah.
What was it was an MA, wasn't it?
Yeah, I decided, when I had my epiphany and decided that I wanted to live with a different kind of creative balance, basically, I woke up one Tuesday morning wondering whether it was possible to do a master's in songwriting. And I mentioned that I left school at 16. I went to college to do A-levels, and then I did a degree through Open University in economics, which when I look back on it, I think, why did I choose economics? I did it because I was working as head of production and I thought it would be useful for my job. And it's just like, I don't know, I just look back on that. I think I could have done something so much more interesting, because honest to God, it made no difference whatsoever to my job. And occasionally, yes, I have gone, I know a little bit about an economic theory, I might use a Canvas model for that. But I could probably count on one hand the amount of times I've actually used the stuff that I learned doing that degree. But anyway, it gave me the qualification. It took a little chip off my shoulder about my education as well, which I was kind of knocking around with. So I woke up one day saying to myself, wonder if I could do a master's in songwriting, if that's even a thing that exists. And sure enough, it did exist in a few different places. But one of them had an in-person course, which was not very far from where I lived. And so I just hadn't even spoken to my family at all. I just filled in the application form like you do. And then about 5 minutes after I'd hit send on the application form, the admissions team rang me up saying, let's book you in for an audition. And I was like, well, I haven't actually mentioned it in my family yet. They were like, don't worry, just do the audition. And if you get a place, you can just always turn it down. I mean, they're so they're always having a slow day at admissions that day. And so I was just like, oh God, I've done it now. And then I remember I went to a Pilates class actually, and said to one of my Pilates friends who'd done a master's in feminist studies, and she'd just graduated a few weeks before. So I think I'm doing a master's. And she was like, do it. I was like, you don't even know what it's in yet. She was like, doesn't matter, do it. And then I rang my producer and said, I think I'm doing a master's in songwriting. I literally haven't spoken to my family at all. Haven't mentioned to my kids or my husband. I'm telling all of these other people. Anyway, luckily they didn't mind the idea. And so, I did the audition and was given an offer straight away. And so then felt like, okay, well, I kind of need to just go and do that now then. That's just happening.
That's happening, and you've done it. Yeah. And how does it feel now you've done it?
It's amazing. I mean, you talked about research earlier. I mean, my research skills, I've fallen in love with academia. And, bearing in mind I went to a school that, didn't really give me a lot of grounding in academic kind of skills. I feel very, very grateful to sort of have the love of learning that I have now, and also to be able to be a beginner at, in midlife is a really kind of wonderful gift, actually. So to be able to study and to contribute to the discussion, songwriting is a really under-researched area. So to be able to contribute to research on songwriting is really a privilege as well, because it's one of the arts that has the least amount of research, I think, probably. And just learning how I can use different techniques and different frameworks and different skills to be able to research, which enables me then to do my podcast and it's really, really been valuable. And of course, obviously, all the material that I've written as well, and my songwriting skills, which is a different side of it. I mean, doing a master's is an academic thing. So it's not, you don't go to do a master's sort of thinking that's necessarily going to get me a career in the thing that you're studying, although obviously you do learn and you create material, and you work on your portfolio, and you think about the industry in a different and sort of more research-led way. But yeah, it's been absolutely life-changing. It's been the best thing I ever did.
You've just released a song, haven't you, with your friend?
Oh, well,
Tiago.
yes, that's Tiago has released a song, that I co-wrote. That came out on Friday. It's called Guilty. It's a song that was part of a concept album that he wrote after his dog died, actually. And he just sort of felt he was writing these songs really as a way to sort of heal and deal with the sadness of losing a very precious companion in the way that we lose our pets. And it's tragic when we lose our pets. I mean, anyone who's ever lost an animal will know how devastating it is. I was really privileged to be invited into that project. Every time he took the songs out to open mics and that type of thing, he found that he was getting a really amazing response from people, like, that's how I felt too when my dog died, and that type of thing. It's like, it's been really, really powerful kind of experience. And he just wanted to pay tribute to her, and it's a beautiful record. And this is the penultimate. I think there's one more song to come from the record that I didn't write. He wrote all the others by himself. But yeah, it was an honour to be able to do that. And obviously, as a songwriter, that's what you want artist cuts. You want someone else to release the song that you wrote or co-wrote. So this is the second time that's happened for me. So hopefully not the last.
What really strikes me is that all of these connections that you're building and your Instagram posts and just your profile continues to grow as well. And obviously, congratulations on the Women in Podcasting Award as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
What a fantastic achievement. How did it feel when she phoned you?
I couldn't believe. Do you know what happened? I don't know whether I've told you the story of what happened. So I couldn't go to the actual awards thing. So I got a note from them saying, you're in the top 3. So can you record an acceptance video? And I was like, for goodness sake, why are they getting the top 3? Why don't all the winner to record an acceptance video? So I was just like, oh, so surprised. What a shock. And I was kind of like slightly sarcastically doing it, thinking this is such a waste of my time. And I've like put my lipstick on and everything to do this. Anyway, so I did that the week before or something and sent it to the organisers, to Jen. And I didn't think anything of it because I had plans on that Friday night when the award ceremony was, and I wasn't going to be able to watch it. So I just thought, well, congratulations to whoever wins. I did my bit. At least, she had the thing if she'd needed it, and all the rest, which she's not going to. But okay. Anyway, so on Sunday, so this is on Friday, I have no idea. I've been out for friends. I'd been busy. I don't know what I've been doing on Sunday, but I've been busy. I hadn't checked my emails, hadn't checked anything. And somebody who had voted for me had obviously got their follow-up kind of round robin email. And it was a songwriter in the States. And she messaged me saying, congrats on your award, by the way. And I was like, oh, no, I didn't get an award. You probably just saw that I was nominated, assuming that she'd seen, because, I'd put I've been nominated, blah, blah, blah. She was like, no, I just read an email. I think you'll find your one. And I was like, I just wrote back, shut up. Exclamation mark. Hang on. And then I went to the emails and checked. And sure enough, there it was. I had no idea. It was such a shock. It was absolute.
Because it was in the arts and entertainment category. I mean, it's just one of those things you just think, oh no, surely not. But now you are officially an award-winning podcaster.
I'm a winner.
So brilliant. I love it. And when you think about where the podcast is going to go and how you see it growing and developing, I mean, like, where do you want to go with it?
I've got the topics for the next 3 series. So the research for series 4. So series 3 is going out right now. Series 4 is going to be recorded on the 13th and 14th of February. And then that will be, edited and sorted out, ready to go. So I batch record. So I do all the research. So this is how I do it. So I do all the research over several weeks. Probably takes me a good couple of months to do the research. It's very time consuming. I'm reading a lot of books. I'm going through like medical journals, trying to find ways to access them without having to pay for them and things like that. So there's all sorts of stuff going on. And then my podcast is scripted, so I write a script, which is obviously needs to be detailed. I need to have the right citations. If I'm quoting anybody or that kind of thing, I'm going to make sure that it's all backed up. I can't make a mistake. And then I record them all over 2 days, so 3 and 3. And the last one of each series is an interview. So the interview has been selected as well. And I do a similar process to you, where I, sort out what questions and things that I'm going to ask and the areas. But the interview is selected and designed specifically to tie together the theme. So the next series is a theme of communion, creative communion, and our community and our network, and conversations like this, you and I meeting each other because of creativity, and how you end up with like-minded people, don't you? You end up kind of connecting people on your
I love how you express yourself, Tricia, like in the same way as me. I'm like, like I love it. Sorry, carry on.
Thank you. At the moment, although I obviously haven't even started the research on this yet, is to think about science and creativity. So what is underpinning actually what happens in terms of the hormones that make us more or less creative? What might we learn about left brain, right brain? What do we think about when we think about neurodivergence, etc., etc.? So that's going to be my 6th topic, and then I don't know what the 7th will be, but hopefully it'll come to me.
Are you still thinking about the book? Is that something still in the background?
If you listen to my episode on reframing rejection, you will know that I did indeed send the book proposal out to an agent. And she bit immediately, which got me very excited. And then after I sent her the chapters, she was like, yeah, no, it's not for me. So at the moment, I would like to write the book. It's just about capacity. So at the moment, I feel like I've got more to do with the podcast. I also really appreciate the fact that the podcasts are free. As soon as you have access to a device of some kind, you can access a podcast for free. And I really want the podcast to be for everybody. So there's something very powerful about making this content and putting the time into it that allows everybody to access it, regardless of how much time they have and how much money they have, that they can find a way to achieve a creative balance that works for them. So in terms of my 10-year plan in 10 years' time, I would love to be on the speaker circuit where I could get large corporations to pay me, and then I can continue to offer everything that I offer for free. That's basically
the dream. Absolutely. And the thing is as well is that you also offer different resources through your website, and you're doing group sessions as well now, aren't you? Do you want to talk a little bit about those?
So the resources, there's a number of templates and they're all free. And, going against every single, what's the lead magnet thing that I've been told by, all of these sort of brainwashing people that say you should make people give their email address. No, I'm not going to do that. If you want to give me your email address, I would love to be able to send you my creativity newsletter every fortnight. Yes. But if you don't feel like you want to do that, then you can still have the content. I'm not going to put it behind a membership or anything like that. So all of my templates, so there's a rejection tracker, I've just put a stakeholder management tracker, which is something for the next series, as how you can manage all your stakeholders in your community when you're trying to grow your creativity. Nice. There's a how to do your 10-year plan template, that type of thing, how to find your creativity if you're not sure where to start. All sorts of different things on there, and they're all just available for free, and they're all black and white as well. They're all grayscale, so that you don't need fancy printers to be able to print them off. You can print them at work when no one's looking.
I don't do that at all. And have you created them yourself?
Yeah, have got a lovely designer who created my brand, the hot pink, as you have observed I am wearing, and my yellow. So I've got a brand look and feel, and that has fonts and all that kind of thing. But once I had that template of how to do all of that, then the rest of it I can do, pretty much I can do it all myself. I use Keynote to make all of these different things. But yeah, shout out to Tad Cox, who was the original designer who helped me come up with the pink and yellow, which I'm very proud of, I have to say. Hello, I'm Tricia Duffy. I'm a songwriter, a media consultant, a singer and a podcaster. My podcast is called In 10 Years' Time, How to Live a Creative Life. In each episode, I set out with an aim to inspire you to live a creative life, to find a balance of creativity that works for you, and to encourage you to make that creative dream a reality. With the combination of small daily steps and the heady power of 10 to help us, we will all live a more satisfying life. I've spent the last 2 years trialling ways to live a more creative life, and I'm distilling all I have learned in thousands of hours of research into this podcast series so that you can embark on a similar journey. You can also find me on Instagram and Facebook at In 10 Years Time Official, or you can leave me a comment or send me a message via my website in10yearstime.com. Subscribe and follow In 10 Years Time wherever you get your podcasts. My youngest son, he's now 16 actually, he said this when he was 15. He said, "Who in their right mind gives up a perfectly good job as a management consultant to become a songwriter? I mean, who does that?" He's just like, "I've looked up on the internet. Do you know what the average salary of a songwriter is? £24,000 a year." He's like,
What are you doing?
"Who does that?"
You're just uncreative.
Well, I believe that everyone's creative. One of your guests some time ago said it's a human right to be creative.
It is. Joe Cohn said that.
Joe Cohn said that.
Yeah.
I believe the same thing. I think that to be human is to be creative. It's sort of, different. Creativity, hope, empathy are the things that differentiate us from all other animals, right? So I fight very strongly this whole idea, this narrative I told myself that I'm not a creative person. I'm better off, supporting someone else to be creative. That's just absolute crap, isn't it? It's just not true. So I believe that everyone's creative. My sons both play music. My youngest, actually, the one that thinks I'm an official nut job, he goes to the piano. Oh, he's going to hate this as well that I'm talking about him. So revenge is sweet. He'll probably never listen to it. It's fine. He goes to the piano and he'll start playing, usually at either end of the piano, like the really bass notes and the top notes. And I'll go, "What's that you're playing?" And he'll like, "I don't know, I just made it up." So he'll just like play tunes. It sounds quite like sort of, dramatic and cinematic and what have you. So he definitely has a sort of creative improvisational sort of side to him, particularly musically. He's also extremely good with words. He's got the gift of the gab, which is very annoying. But I think those are his sort of two creative kind of areas rather than visual arts or what have you. And my other son also plays guitar. And he loves research and he loves writing as well. He dreams of being a journalist. So, I think they are both very creative, although they probably wouldn't see themselves in that way because it's not a sort of language that they enjoy. But I think they both are, yeah.
Did your mum and dad play at all? Were they musical?
No. My mum played when she was a child. And my dad played violin when he was a child, but neither of them played anything when I was growing up, no.
Did you sing in choirs or how did you get into music at school?
So I didn't really have the opportunity to study music at school because it wasn't offered at the school that I went to. I couldn't do there was O-levels in my day. Yeah. Couldn't do an O-level in music. I did drama. I did a lot of drama. So my main thing was drama, and then I had singing lessons with a lady that lived at the back of our house.
That's it. It's usually the one down the road.
Yeah, there was a singing teacher, and I had lessons with her, a few lessons with her, and I sang. When I was 16, when I'd left school, the first year I'd left school that summer, my drama teacher at school had a company that it was called the Merchant Players. He used to take ex-pupils usually to the Isle of Wight to do melodramas in the Carisbrooke Castle, and so a whole bunch of us went to the Isle of Wight, and we spent 2 weeks there doing 7 shows a day, in Carisbrooke Castle on the Isle of Wight. That was our sort of like first proper acting kind of foray. I wouldn't call it an acting job so much, but although we sort of lived off the tips, we got tips and we lived off of that. It funded itself. So I guess that was, and I did sing as part of that. In that particular year, I had the lead role of the melodrama, A Lady Called Lavinia, and had to sing as well. And I sang, as a hobby, but when I was 14, 15 years old, my overriding ambition in life was to go to America, because that's where I could see that I could become a singer or an actor. Because in America, anything goes. Anyone could do anything they wanted. There was no class system that said that it wasn't for people like me. It was, everything was available to absolutely everybody, as far as I could tell, because I was watching Dynasty, Dallas, and Moonlighting. We're obviously great examples and snapshots of the real life in America. Little did I know. And that is how the whole idea of going to work on cruise ships came about, because I became completely obsessed about how I was going to get to America. That's all I could think about. And my mum had a friend whose daughter had worked on cruise ships, and she just asked her for advice about the fact that I was hell-bent on going to America. And they were recruiting at the time for a ship in New York that needed staff to work in the gift shop, and that's how I went out there. I did an interview over the phone, and then flew out when I was 19. I'd only just turned 19. I did 11 months as a gift shop assistant on that first cruise line, and came home and then applied like mad to go back in the entertainment department as a hostess. And just all I wanted to do. And when I'd been working on cruise ships, I'm working in the gift shop. I'd been volunteering as a spotlight assistant, volunteering to do anything. I would sing if they asked me, anything they wanted me to do, I would do it, just to show them how willing I was. And then amazingly, a job came up as a hostess back on the same ship that I'd been working on as a gift shop assistant. And I went back to the exact same ship. And I can remember turning up there and sort of just being so excited to learn and everything. And we used to do things like I would teach line dancing. So a lot of country music I'd never really heard, other than the theme tune to the Dukes of Hazzard. I didn't really, and like Dolly Parton, which is obviously on the radio. I didn't really know a lot about country music. But I learned I could teach people the Achy Breaky Heart. And
yeah, been there, done that.
Yeah, exactly. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And I loved music, musicals, American musicals as well, which obviously influenced me a lot more, and a lot of jazz and standards as well, American standards. So, it was a real education in kind of some, not classical, but some classic American kind of music that had been around for a very long time, because we used to have a lot of singers that came on who would sing the standards, the Cole Porters and all of that kind of thing. So I guess it really did influence my taste for sure. Yeah.
And how did or when did Little Law come into that then? Because you sing, you have
an alter ego.
You have your alter ego.
Yeah, I have a lot of brands, as someone said to me once. Who the hell are you? Like, in 10 years' time, Little Law. My company's called Lily Gray, and I'm also Tricia sometimes. So I was in a duo for a few years called Duffy and Bird, and during the pandemic, the duo fell apart, primarily because we couldn't see each other or perform. We lived in different cities, and so suddenly, it became very difficult. And it was very heartbreaking for me for the duo to break up. We were really close and really good friends, and we just had this sort of it sort of nourished me in a different way, having that kind of creative partner to write and perform with. And when the duo was sort of definitely done, I can remember talking to Ollie, who is the producer of Little Law, and so Ollie just said to me, "Look, we've got a pandemic." He lives in New York. He said, I can work with anyone. I can work with you just as easily as I can work with anyone now, because I'm not dependent on people coming into the studio. I'm doing everything remotely. And I said to him, well, my dream would be to have you produce a record. And he was like, well, then let's do it. So I sent him about 15 songs that I'd written that I thought might be contenders for a record. And he shortlisted, well, he originally shortlisted 6. And then he said, actually, there's a 7th one that I think is really strong, that we should do 7, because I asked him to pick 6. And he convinced me to do 7. And we started working those up, and that became the first Little Law record. And then I've really just sort of, I've just grown it from there, really. Once you've started something like that, and it gives you, it's a bit like your podcast, Lucy, you have a tone of voice and you have a vehicle to say the things that you want to say, and the music that I want to write, which is, I'm my own audience for that, really. I want music from my perspective. I don't want male perspective music. I don't want young people's perspective music. I don't want male's perspective music through young women's voices either, because you know that less than 15% of commercially successful songs are written by women. So there's a lot of kind of integrity in the way that I use lyrics and lyricism and the style of communication that I want to have in my music, which I hope is something that other people will want to listen to as well, in terms of variety of perspective. So that's how it came about, and I hope it sort of stays around with me for a long time. I have to say I'm really kind of proud of it as an alter ego, if you can be proud of your alter ego. I don't know.
I love the kind of the intimate gigs that you're doing. Is it the veranda gigs? What they're called?
The porch gig. I do.
The porch gigs. I love that.
I know. I'm going to do it again, actually.
How often do you do them?
I mean, I've only done it once, actually, but I'm going to do it again. No, there is a regular thing, but I only found out about it this year. It's called Play Music on the Porch Day. I think it happens in August or September, something like that. And I found out about it this year, and I thought, I'll do that. And so I just texted the neighbours saying, I'm going to play songs for half an hour on 3:00 tomorrow if anyone wants to swing by. And then like loads of the neighbours came, and they were like, we had friends staying, so we brought them as well. And so I had all people sort of sitting on our drive, because I have a porch. My love of Americana and America in general, notwithstanding political landscape right now, it goes so far that I adore houses with porches. Like, porch life to me is just such a joyful thing, to be attached to your community, be able to see people walking up and down the street, say hi to them
in the rocking chair,
exactly, all of that. So I actually have a porch on my bungalow. I have a porch out the front, which is very unusual for West London, but it is really nice. And so I just plugged in my amp and I stood out there and I played songs. And I'll probably do it again, I think, as soon as the weather's warm enough to expect people to stand outside for half an hour, then I'll do it again. It's a little bit of a tricky one, because obviously I can't tell everyone where I live. I don't think probably appropriateness about that, but I can tell friends I'm playing some songs on my porch, or my neighbours.
It sounds like you're living your best life.
I am. I've never been happier.
Like, for those people that feel stuck, like, what would you say to them?
Do your 10-year plan.
Yeah.
And then do one tiny thing every single day. 1 minute of practice. If all you can find in the day is 1 minute to play your guitar, play for 1 minute. I mean, this is like an old cliche, isn't it? But the only commodity we really have, and I know that, not everybody lives with financial security or with, an ability to make change just like that. But our time really is our only commodity. And, when I do my workshops, my 10-year planning workshops, I ask people to bring their phones in with the notifications on. I ask them to check their screen time as one of the things that we check as an input right at the start. And I'm as guilty of this as the next person. But I mean, if I can't find 1 minute to practice my guitar when I clocked up 2.5 hours on my phone, there's something not going right here, is there? So it's about asking ourselves those very, very difficult questions, and also allowing ourselves the kind of patience to master something over time. This is why 10 years is really powerful as well, because of the fact that you can master something over 10 years. And we are all, this whole thing about, doing this. I was very good at my job in TV. And I don't mean to say that to be immodest or lacking humility, but you can become good at anything if you do it for 20 years. I mean, if I wasn't good at it, there would be serious questions asked, because, 20 years, but a lot of people do a trade they never chose. And so just taking that time to really think about what it is that you want, what makes you truly happy, what gives you joy, what gives you nourishment. And that might not be just one thing, it might be a number of different things. And giving yourself permission to spend 1 minute doing that thing that gives you joy every day. Those tiny things, it's like compound interest, It's, to use an economic term, because I did do my degree in economics.
Just threw that in there. See, that degree did come in handy. It's so true, though. Like, just that 1 minute.
It is true.
We just get so serious in life.
I know. And it's one of the things that they say, isn't it? Who is it? I'm just trying to think about the book. It might be Mastery by Robert Greene, that talks about if you want to know kind of what your vocation is, you go back to what you loved when you were 4 as an informed time. The thing you love doing most when you were 4 is likely to be the thing that you both have a natural inclination towards, and is likely to be that sort of ikigai kind of, joy kind of Venn diagram thing. I'm spending my savings, and I do have a really, really understanding family. But I've never, ever been happier, and I wouldn't go back to the sort of safer life that I had before. I wouldn't choose it again. I sort of say to myself, well, if nothing's happened by June, would I give up in July? I wouldn't. I'd carry on through July. So I sort of like test myself a little bit. There's another questioning thing which, might be helpful for some people, which is this idea. If you had 10 years to live, would you do the thing you're doing today? Would you take the interview with Lucy? Yes, I would. If I had 10 months to live, would I take the interview with Lucy? Yes, I would. If I had 10 days to live, would I take the interview with Lucy? Yes, I would. It's all about kind of like testing yourself, like what you're doing. Now, I still do work in my day job, in my muggle job, as someone referred to it the other day. It's my muggle job. And I'm down to about a day and a half a week now, roughly. So I've gone from 5 days a week to a day and a half. And yeah, I mean, it takes a lot of, it's about decisions. Again, that's the other thing that I try to do, is just empower people. The very first episode of my podcast, very first series, first episode, we talk about success, about what does success mean to you? What does enough mean to you? Am I happier writing songs, having a bit less money, and having to say no to go out for an expensive meal? Yes, I am. So that's all good. I've made a lot of changes in my life. Doing a master's really helped me with that, I have to say, because education is a socially acceptable reason to say no to things that you have a lot of should and ought to do. And so having kind of, I'd love to come, but unfortunately I have an essay due, and so I need to work on my master's, or I've really got to work on my master's, so I'm really sorry I can't come, did allow people a nice reason for me dropping out of certain things. I think that it's difficult with some of your friendships and what have you, for people to accept that you want to spend time completely on your own rather than hanging out with them, which I do. I want to just give people confidence in the language that they need to be able to say no. Do you know what I mean? Like, I just want to get behind everyone else to say, okay, this is how you do it. This is how you're going to say no. This is how you're going to say, I can't come that time, without over-explaining. Just say you can't come. You don't need to give a reason. You don't need to have, you're wanting to spend time painting your canvas, or drawing something, or knitting, or whatever it is that your creativity is. And it's not just about music, obviously, is perfectly legitimate. And, all power to you, and saying no is your choice. You shouldn't need to feel guilty about that. But I think because all the things you're just talking about children, about those pathways, we are educated from a very young age to believe that that's frivolous. When we get to being our sort of, well, my age and yours are different, but our stage when we've got children and what have you, it's selfish to be creative now instead of just frivolous. So not only are you being frivolous, you're also being selfish because you should be mothering, or you should be being good feminists and getting a business job, or you should be doing this, or you should be doing that. Well, actually, what we should be doing is making art. And, the benefits of that are not just our own day-to-day enjoyment, but actually one could argue, and I will argue, that the benefits of us maintaining our creativity on our brain function will keep us in better health, which is actually a gift to our children because they won't have to look after us, because we will hold off dementia. We will, be able to stay independent if we are unlucky enough to be diagnosed with dementia. We will be able to communicate. We will have meaning and purpose I think teaching is a really good example. I always sort of use in my mind when I think about my ideal listener, I think about the headmaster who has been at the top of his, let's call him a man, game for, a very, very long time and then retires because you can't offer anything in that environment anymore because your time is up, and has no identity. You're just defined by who you used to be rather than who you are. Well, if that headmaster was a guitar player and a songwriter or a potter or a textiles artist or a dancer or anything, then they have something else that they can immediately hang on to themselves in terms of identity, and also an ability to be a learner at a stage of life where it's quite difficult for our ego sometimes to let us kind of lean into that.